We have part 5 of Pregnancy and Human Development, page 1077. We're looking at the endoderm here, and we're noting what aspects of the human anatomy arises. I had indicated to you that it is the lining of the digestive system, the respiratory system, and then there are glands of interest associated with all of that. So the epithelial linings of the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, there's the gallbladder and liver involved. And then I mentioned the lungs to you, so the trachea, the esophagus, and so on. All of these, how shall I say, lining tissues, even the oral cavity and so on. So that's an aspect of endoderm. I'm going to pick up again here with this little overview. Here's our original status here as a bilayer. And then what we're going to notice here is that we're going to get the 3 layers, and there's going to be a neural plate here. The neural plate represents the central nervous system. We have yet to see the emergence of the peripheral nervous system, so a neural plate. And this is ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm right around here. Okay, and then notice, we have a fold. So we have something called the neural groove. And this is going to be central nervous system area over here. And then notice we have these little neural crest cells in green. And they're going to represent all the peripheral nervous system, right? So cranial nerves, spinal nerves, and all the branches therein that go out throughout the body. So central and peripheral nervous system. And then we have this brown unit over here, which represents the mesoderm. Okay, so musculature, bony structure, connective tissues, and so on. And then we have the lining here, which is the endoderm. Notice that going from a neural groove to a neural tube has occurred by this point, and I'm not keeping track of the days here. We started off up here at 17 days and then 26 days to get to this tri-layer with the neural groove, and then we're at, I'm not sure, and that's 20, not 26, 20 days. Now 3 weeks over here, 22, just beyond, a couple days further, and we formed a tube. So things are happening relatively quickly. These neural crest cells are going to swim and grow and do all of the things they need to do in reference to their geography. And we're going to have ultimately some cerebrospinal fluid in there, because this is going to represent the ventricular system ultimately. Okay, then we get further development here, and where have we gone? We've gone from 22 days now to the end of the 4th week. Okay, so now we're at 28 days, and we have this more or less complete development then of what is the, they're even showing us kidney and gonads arising from the intermediate mesoderm. I want you to take a close note of that, because in some traditional anatomies and physiologies, like in Oriental medicine, they actually identify the kidney and the gonads as being the same organ function. So it's sort of an interesting little detail. And they do arise actually from the very same germ layer and location of the intermediate mesoderm. So I find that to be instructive, that somehow enough empiricism exists over centuries and millennia in traditional medicine for observant practitioners to notice a connection. Okay, so here we have something that's referred to as a somite, and it represents a dermatome, which we've gone over with regard to the underlying skin. We also have musculature development. Limb buds will arise from there. Here is the limb bud over here. Here is a table that's going to sort of, I call it the quick and dirty, It's if you have just this little bit of information in your mind, you're going to have an adequate idea of what's going on with embryo. So let's take a look here. This is ectoderm, and what do you really need to remember is skin, central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, peripheral nervous system, which is all the spinal and cranial and spinal nerves. So that's it: skin, brain, spinal cord, cranial nerves, spinal nerves. You're done. Over here at the endoderm, we're going to be having just the epithelial linings of the major organs, including respiration and digestion. All right, so the lining of the oral cavity, esophagus, stomach, and small intestine, large intestine, the accessory organs like liver, right, and gallbladder, and then the respiratory tract, which is the lining of the trachea and the lungs. Okay, that's not a hard thing to remember, just those linings. And then you could safely say, okay, everything else is mesoderm. But we can also enumerate sort of the big categories here. We can enumerate bone, muscle, connective tissue, kidney, gonad. Okay, remember that most organs have some amount of musculature. So like the stomach has 3 layers of muscle, and the heart has its muscle, right? And so there's connective tissues associated with many organs. Organs are an arrangement of tissues, right? So the tissues might reference one of these layers, but then the organ itself will be a formation of all of these tissues taken together and organized into the function of that organ. Okay, probably one of the things that you can do then is just divide this information into 3 parts in your mind: ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm, and you will have arrived at an adequate understanding. There are some things that change at the moment of birth. Okay, so here we have the fetal situation. So from the fetus, we have input from mom through the placenta, and then blood flowing up this way is coming through the umbilical vein, which is going to become the ligamentum teres that connects with the liver after birth. This is going to basically become vestigial. Okay, but before it is vestigial, it's a real thing that travels through the liver, because remember, your nutrients have to go first to the liver, and so the placenta goes first to the liver for consideration and then to the heart. We also have that crossover in the heart here, in which the foramen ovale needs to become the fossa ovalis in the adult heart or the newborn heart, and it has to happen within hours of delivery. Then there's going to be this right here, which is the ductus arteriosus becomes the ligamentum arteriosus, so we don't have that shunt anymore. It just becomes a vestigial ligament. So if you can remember just those things that I've just mentioned to you, you'll be in excellent shape. Okay, so, and of course there's some fun pictures that are presented here by Dr. Marib, and very wonderful to see. Okay.